Hi, today we're going to read from Front Desk by Kelly Yang, Chapter 50. Chapter 50 begins on page 209. I sat at the front desk waiting for Hank to get home. He and Fred had gone to an Angels baseball game. It was getting to be rush hour. I stared at the cars crawling down Coast Boulevard, muttering, come on, under my breath, when at last I spotted Hank's pickup coming down the road. I ran outside, waving my arms. Breathlessly, I told him and Fred what happened. I knew it, Hank said, throwing his Angels baseball cap on the ground. What'd I tell you, Fred? It was an inside job. The guy probably thought he could pull a 30-day special. What's a 30-day special, I asked. A 30-day special is when someone reports his car got stolen, but it's not really stolen, Fred said. He's just hiding it for 30 days. My mind was swarming with questions. Why 30 days? Because that's how long most insurance companies take to settle the claim, Hank explained. The insurance company probably gave him a big fat check for the price of his car. And what happens to the car? Hank shrugged. He could try to sell it to someone or sell it for parts. That's probably what he was doing when we went over there, I said. We have to call the police. I grabbed the phone and dialed the number for Officer Phillips. This time, Officer Phillips actually listened. He and his colleagues went straight over to Mr. Lorenz's house, where they watched him for a while and eventually caught him red-handed trying to sell his stolen car. They arrested him on the spot for insurance fraud, money laundering, and a whole bunch of other bad stuff I had never even heard of before. He'll be going away for a long, long time, Officer Phillips said when he came over later that night. That was a relief, considering the last thing Mr. Lorenz said to me. Officer Phillips shook my hand and thanked me for cracking the case. I was all smiles. My mom and dad joked that maybe I could get a job on the force one day. Officer Phillips chuckled and was about to turn to leave when I nudged him and pointed toward Hank's room. Officer Phillips sighed, but he followed me over. Hank answered on the first knock, then frowned when he saw who it was. Officer Phillips looked similarly unthrilled. But nevertheless, he muttered an apology for having wrongly accused Hank. You know what that cost me? It cost me my job, Hank said. Again, I'm sorry, Officer Phillips said flatly. Hank looked him straight in the eye. Don't be sorry, be better, Hank said. Next time you accuse a black man, stop and think. Officer Phillips looked away and didn't say anything. That night, my mother and father came into my room. We're proud of you, they said. Even though you went into a stranger's house, my mom tissed, but I could tell she wasn't really mad. They took a seat at the foot of my bed, and my mother reached for my hand. Do you still remember asking me a while back why we came to America? She said. I nodded. This is why, she said. Because of 30-day specials, I asked. My mom chuckled and shook her head. No, sweetheart, she said, because here people are innocent until proven guilty, for the most part, at least. That's what we saw tonight. Slowly, my parents started telling me about something that happened in China a long time ago called the Cultural Revolution. The Cultural Revolution was a political movement that took place in China in the 1960s and 70s. My parents said that during the Cultural Revolution, my grandparents were locked up and shipped away. It didn't matter whether they actually did anything wrong. That's why we left, so that something like that wouldn't happen to you, my dad said. Tonight, seeing that police officer arrest Mr. Lorenz and actually come back here and apologize to Hank. Okay, he didn't really want to apologize, but still he did. I know I made the right decision. America may not be perfect, but she's free, and that makes all the difference. I finally understood what my parents meant by free. And that's the end of chapter 50.